And again, New York City, it just continues to get worse and worse, down to just a half a mile of visibility, Craig, as well here in the Big Apple. I have never seen something like this.
You know, I've seen it before covering wildfires in LA and Seattle, and it is scary. And this is the kind of thing, Kendall, that's not going to be fixed in a day or two. It's going to take plenty of time. You talked about visibility down to a half a mile in Newark. The temperature dropped the last hour from 74 to 72. A lot of the sunshine being filtered out by all of the haze.
That's exactly right. And so if you're wondering what in the world is going on, I also have to think about the fact that it's kind of peak tourist time. A lot of tourists are here in New York City and some of the surrounding cities in the Northeast. And this is the first time they're experiencing this. And unfortunately, it's going to last for the next few days. And so what's going on is that we've got numerous wildfires raging on to the north of us in Canada, in particular near Quebec. And so all of that smoke, it is filtering into the region thanks to the northwesterly winds that we have in place. So we've got a kind of coastal low just off the coast of New England, and it's turning, it's veering back around. And so instead of working its way further to the northeast, it's kind of turning back westward, and that's allowing more of that smoke to filter in. So we know just over the last few hours since we've been on air, Craig, conditions have gotten significantly worse.
Oh, just looking at those images, here's an example of, you know, we saw that map from Nate, and usually it's the West Coast that's burning up. It's all flipped around right now. And this is an example from October 2022 of Seattle, Washington, where you couldn't make out the skyline from Lake Union. This would have been looking over toward the Space Needle on the right side of your screen. You can't even make it out. So this is an example of how bad it gets. And these wildfires in Canada at the time, over on the western side, Kendall, is what brought the smoke to Seattle. That was all from just places like Vancouver and to the north of there.
Right. And so we typically talk about kind of the western provinces this time of the year for the wildfires, at least in Canada, because Canada's typical wildfire season is right now. It's really kind of starts April, lasts all the way through September. But the difference, Craig, this year, as opposed to years past, is that typically kind of the smoke, it stays higher aloft in the atmosphere. So it doesn't mix down to the surface. We don't really feel those impacts. But this year in particular, it is closer to the surface. It's trapped almost at the surface. And as we have kind of the higher concentration of the PM 2.5, which is that fine particulate matter of that smoke, that's what is so dangerous, because that is what can actually get past our body's natural defense mechanisms and get deep into our lungs. And it's a big concern for everyone.
Everyone, really. Take a look at those images below us, Kendall, from Patterson Falls, New Jersey. We just saw New York. Everything looks bright red. On the big screen that you see there, that's a look at New York City Wednesday at 11:30 in the morning. And then now, here's what it looked like at 12:30. Changes in what we are seeing are happening just like that. And if you're outside for just a moment, and then you're outside for the entire day, or just walking around and you're working outside, you may be healthy. And it's this quality, air quality, that's gotten to the point where it's hazardous for everyone, not just people with upper respiratory problems, not just the elderly or the kids. This is pretty much affecting everyone in some way, especially if you're out there for a period of time.
And Craig, look at the shot on the lower right-hand side of your screen.
It's red. And it's 1:35 p.m. on the East Coast.
This is the most red that we have seen the New York City skyline this entire day.
That's no filter.
There's not a filter. You're looking at the Empire State Building in the distance. This looks like a horror film.
That's so scary.
It is.
It's one of those things where you just don't want to be outside at all. Closing the windows, making sure you're not running the AC if it's a window unit. You can run your natural AC if it's not the window unit. Clean out the filters once this is passed. But this is the type of event, 1:30 in the afternoon. This is not a sunset, and you can't see the buildings behind. You can barely make out the silhouette of the Empire State Building.
And so, again, if you're wondering, why is it red? Why is it orange? It is physics, folks. That's all it is. And so what's happening is that when we have kind of that fine particulate matter in the atmosphere, what happens is that essentially we're filtering out the colors with the shorter wavelengths. So
the blues,
greens. And what's left behind, the colors actually are able to kind of reach our eyeballs. Red and orange. The longer the wavelengths, that's all we can see. And that's why it appears just so orange and red out there. And it's so thick. And unfortunately, it's only expected to get worse for other locations. We were talking a little while ago with Fox Weather's Katie Burns. She's live for us in Philly. And exactly what we're dealing with right now here in New York City, we know that's on the way for Philly and some of the surrounding areas.
It's scary. Also, you're looking at the current air quality map. And look at this. You've got, if you look at the banner right below where it says current air quality, there are 6 levels. Now we're seeing the purple, very unhealthy, and the hazardous levels. Hazardous levels means that's affecting everyone no matter what. Even if you're the healthiest person, you run a marathon, you feel great. No. And then to get to the very unhealthy also could have an effect on you, even if you are healthy. This is a live shot of 6th Avenue, New York City, right here at Fox Weather headquarters, looking up toward Radio City, and right smack in the center would be some trees from Central Park. We normally can see them on a clear day, not today.
And our camera, it's having a hard time adjusting. Did you see that?
Yeah, did you see it?
It's trying to adjust to the changing light. And what's happening again, it's a dimmer sun. We are filtering out the shorter wavelengths. So all that's left behind is that reddish hint. That's what we've got going on. And again, it just keeps getting darker and darker.
That's really bad.
So I want to ask you, Craig. You spent an extensive period of time living in the Pacific Northwest. You have covered numerous wildfires. What can folks do right now?
Right now is the time to stay indoors. I would say even a mask, even though it doesn't filter out all the tiny particulate matter, maybe it's a good idea to put a mask on just to help protect your lungs, and then be safe, because when you get home, I'd say take off your clothes, take a shower, take care of your pets, and don't walk if you can before, like, make your morning commute and evening commute fast, because you also have the smoke and then the ground ozone at that point because of more cars on the road.
Just
a couple of ideas.
An extremely hazardous situation, so very helpful tips right there, Craig. Thanks.